Time is now 3:31. I'll call to order the November 5th, 2025 City of Norwood Planning Commission. Mrs. Town, would you please call the roll?
Chairman Powers,
Present.
Mayor Schneider,
Here.
Mrs. Sickinger,
Present.
Mr. Hockney, Mr. Sewer.
Present.
Moving on to item B, approve the agenda. Are there any amendments to the agenda? Hearing none, I'll move that the November 5th, 2025 agenda of the Norwood Planning Commission be approved as prepared. Do I have a second? Mrs. Town, would you please call the roll?
Chairman Powers,
Yes?
Mayor Schneider,
Yes.
Mrs. Sickinger,
Yes.
Mr. Sewer.
Yes.
Moving to item C, approval of minutes, September 3rd, 2025. Any amendments to the minutes? Hearing none, I'll move that we approve the September 3rd, 2025 Planning Commission minutes as prepared.
Second.
Mrs. Town, would you please call the roll?
Chairman Powers,
Yes?
Mayor Schneider,
Yes.
Mrs. Sickinger,
Yes.
Mr. Sewer.
Yes.
Moving to item D1, we have a public hearing for 2577 Duck Creek Road, Norwood, Ohio, 45212, located within the GBD PUD zoning district. It's requesting that a planned unit development zoning designation be set aside and that the underlying GBD zone be applied. Is there a representative? Would you please come to the microphone?
Okay, thank you.
Would you please state your name?
My name is Gregoire Rabkowitz, W-Y-R-A-B-K-I-E-W-I, C as in cat, Z as in zebra.
They have your name here. I just did not want to butcher it in front of you.
No, I appreciate that.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm here, thank you all for being here, to request that the PUD on the property be set aside and be able to operate under the current GBD zoning. The proposed use is a fitness facility, health club. It's been a kettlebell fitness facility in the past. Building's been vacant for approximately 6 months or so. There will be no structural changes to the existing building, only cosmetic and operational improvements only, so installing trade fixtures as well. Do I go through the whole, my whole thing here? Or is that sufficient to move forward, or?
Are there questions from the commissioners?
I can talk a little bit about the business. If you'd
Yeah, I
like.
think that would be helpful.
Okay. Yeah, the facility will serve as a community-based athletic training and wellness center. Future growth plans to hire 3 to 4 additional certified trainers and expanding programs and clientele. Continue to enhance exterior appearance and curb appeal, refresh landscaping and signage, ongoing parking lot maintenance and exterior enhancements. One of the things that we have in our contract is to remove some of the debris on the hillside, a refrigerator that's been sitting there for who knows how long. Increase community partnerships and outreach through local schools and youth programs. My business purpose is dedicated to youth athletic development with a focus on hockey. I currently run camps in the area. I'm a coach in the area. My son plays through the Cincinnati Cyclones organization. I had over 50 youth athletes that I trained over the summer, just starting my business months ago. And it's gotten to the point where I need to expand and have my own facility. My goal is to build a stronger Cincinnati hockey community, provide structured, affordable, and high-quality training programs, operate as a locally owned small business, contributing to Norwood's growth. My mission, elevate the competitive performance of youth hockey in the area, deliver specialized training that builds skill, confidence, and discipline, foster fun, supportive, and hardworking environment, be the first dedicated hockey training facility in the Cincinnati area. My vision, become leading youth hockey athletic development center in greater Cincinnati, focus on off-ice hockey performance while serving athletes of all sports, encourage multi-sport participation to create well-rounded athletes. I believe that every child deserves access to fitness and empowerment to promote long-term physical and mental health, build confidence through measurable progress and positive reinforcement, maintain a high-energy, community-oriented environment. Some of the program highlights: small group training, 4 to 6 athletes, affordable competitive setting, performance-focused coaching, goal-driven improvement, education-based training athletes, how, why, behind the performance. Special offerings, nutrition consultation, one-on-one video analysis, shooting and stick handling development, high-intensity sports-specific training programs, certified CPT and PES coaching staff, personal training and family facility programs, supplement education and product support, community impact. It reactivates a property that's been vacant for over 6+ months. Exterior upgrades will improve the property appearance and value. Job creation. The goal is to hire additional trainers within the 18 to 24 months. Attract youth athletes from across the entire area. Promote health, wellness, and a positive youth development. And then support Norwood's local economy through small business investment. Just fully compliant with GBD zoning if we were able to move forward with that. No exterior construction or structural modifications. Focus on revitalization, job creation, community engagement, and then just creates a long-term positive presence for youth athletic excellence in Norwood.
Questions?
What would be the operation hours?
Operation hours would probably be 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is just for my own, I didn't look it up. I could have Googled it. What is Orange Theory?
Orange Theory is a chain fitness center. That has nothing to do with me.
It's huge.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, it's like just a huge fitness outfit. Yeah.
Okay.
They have their own niche.
Yeah. Is it Norwood? Cincinnati?
There's one at Rookwood.
Yeah.
All right.
What
Sorry.
is your facility going to be called?
Bar Down Cincy. Yeah. Bar
You know you're
Down.
in Norwood?
I'm sorry.
You know you're in Norwood.
It's a play on a hockey term called bar down, but it also has meaning for a gym. So like a bar down goal would be a shot, hits the bar, goes into the goal. It's just a hockey term.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Now, open the public hearing for anyone who would like to speak in favor. Anyone who would like to speak in favor? You don't have to speak yet. Last call for anyone who would like to speak in favor. Now offer an opportunity for anyone who would like to speak opposed. Anyone who would like to speak opposed? Final call for anyone who would like to speak opposed. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Staff comments?
The reason, this is pretty simple. I mean, the reason he's before you, because it's in a GBD, I mean, a PUD, with a GBD underlying of the PUD. And he's allowed in a GBD zone. And he's before you because it's a PUD, and this board had any changes in a PUD, and the building has been vacant for over 6 months, has to come before this board. Other than that, it's allowed.
Okay,
If you remove it or set aside, or however you want to do it.
thank you. Discussion amongst the commissioners? Seeing none, I move that the Norwood Planning Commission approve the request for this specific use of a health club fitness facility at 2577 Duck Creek Road, Norwood, Ohio 45212, waiving the planned unit development zoning designation and setting it aside and allowing the underlying GBD zone to be applied. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mrs. Town, would you please call the roll?
Chairman Powers,
Yes?
Mayor Snyder,
Yes.
Mrs. Signature,
Yes.
Mr. Stewart.
Yes.
Thank you. Your request is approved. Moving now to item D2. Mick Oaks, Associate Developer with PLK Communities, is requesting that the City of Norwood Planning Commission waive all PUD requirements for this project from the existing PUD property south of Robertson Avenue, 4500 Beach Street, Norwood, Ohio, 45212. Mr. Oaks?
Good afternoon, Mick Oaks, PLK Communities, here to talk today about the Robertson South PUD development and our request to waive the PUD overlay and revert back to the NBD underlying zoning. So, quick refresher of the zoning map showing our parcel in pink. That is the NBD zoning. Wanted to walk through some of the zoning requirements of NBD and show how our plan is acceptable with that zoning code. So just wanted to walk through step by step and how we've gotten to this point. So quoting section 1151, this our project is compliant. We follow all applicable standards and cross-reference provisions from chapter 1151, including property requirements, design standards, and setbacks. Our development encourages pedestrian-oriented mixed-use development. And inside of that chapter 1151, it does permit attached dwellings and shared access drives. So just a clip of our site plan with that, general reference of what is permittable with inside that NBD zoning. Furthermore, the density that is required, so 1 unit per 1,500 square feet of lot area, taking our 3.05 acre lots, it's permitted 88 units at its max density. The plan before you today shows 48 townhomes, which is roughly a 47% reduction from the max density. So we're well within under what is permitted within that NBD zoning. Further into the code requirements, in NBD, the max height of all buildings is 50 feet. The minimum front setback is none in NBD, as well as the rear and side setback. The max front setback is 10 feet. We're compliant with this. In the bottom right, our max building height is 37 feet, with a front setback of 17 feet and side setbacks of 15 to 24 feet. All of these are within or exceeding the applicable NBD dimensional limits. Again, maximum height of multifamily is 50 feet. We're compliant with that. 35 feet of a flat roof for our 3, and our 2-bedroom units are 37 with the pitch, so we're well under that 50 feet. And then again, with setbacks, front yard minimum of 15, side and rear vary within that code, but it's typically 5 to 10 feet. Our shortest setback is off of Beach Street, which is 17 and a half feet, which is shown on the bottom left. So we're well over what is required for setbacks with the NBD underlying zoning. 115509 pedestrian circulation. NBD requires that safe pedestrian circulation, separation from vehicles is required. We're compliant with this. We have an internal sidewalk network connecting all units, parking, open space, and walkability is fully integrated. So we highlighted all the internal sidewalks. We're actually missing some of that middle section as well, as there's sidewalks out of the front doors of that middle block of townhomes. But all these units are integrated with access to Beach and Robertson and a safe path for all of our residents. Utilities. All utilities must be underground, adequate water and sewer with fire hydrants. We're compliant with this. I've attached on page 10, all utilities are installed underground. And we did highlight all of the fire hydrants. We're at 4 now, which I believe is over what is required, but we're well within what is needed from a hydrant and a utility standpoint on this proposed development. Open space is not required. It's not explicitly required in the NBD. It's encouraged. We wanted to show that we are at least 41.9% of open space. We've not included that retention pond towards the north, but we're well over what it would be required of a PUD open space for this development as well. Parking, 2 spaces per dwelling unit is required in the NBD. We are compliant with that with 90 to 96 spaces. 2-car garage townhome units account for 90 to 96 spaces, plus the 20 guest spaces, which puts us in that 110 to 116 unit range. So we're exceeding that by 122% of what's required from the NBD zoning. Handicap spaces as well. It's in the pink section there, or those are also included. Make note of that. Privacy and landscape screening. Privacy, we must be provided reasonable visual and acoustic privacy for residents. We're compliant with that. Our landscaping buffers, garage orientation, and building placement reduce direct sight lines and noise to our surrounding neighbors. Landscaping and screening. Buffers require only where NBD abuts residential. Site is fully surrounded by NBD use. Landscaping used for aesthetics and privacy enhancement. We attach page 18 and 19 of our landscaping plan that shows our development is fully surrounded by landscaping buffers. In conclusion, this plan is fully compliant with NBD zoning. Proposed density is approximately 48% below the maximum allowable of this NBD site. Waiving the PUD overlay allows the plan to be built by right, and the project maintains the intent of the NBD district, which is walkable, mixed residential, and pedestrian-oriented design. Be happy to answer any questions that staff has on this.
Questions from the commissioners?
On the open space definition that you used here, it's not the same definition that's in our zoning code, is that correct?
So I want to make sure, so for NBD, there's no,
I understand there's no requirement, but
Yes, sir.
you said you're way over your what percentage? I forget what percentage.
48.
I'm sorry.
oh, 42.6. In a PUD, it is 25% is the requirement. Open
It's a
space.
requirement. I guess 41.9%. That's just, okay, I'll stop.
Other questions?
Walkability, talk about the sidewalks, the internal sidewalks and all of those. How wide are the sidewalks?
I could pull those. I believe it's 4 feet is our standard. There is a code requirement that we have to follow with that.
All right, then the buffer zoning and the screening, the existing trees along the back area, the back area there, that existing trees will stay, or existing trees will be removed and then you'll plant new trees in that area?
There'll be a combination. So we'll have to remove some of those trees for our building footprints to get in, but we'll retain as many of the existing trees on site as we can.
This is all shown new additional trees in addition to what's already on site. For example, that hillside, I don't know if you can see my cursor. So this is fully wooded right now. We're anticipating leaving all of those trees that are there currently.
Mr. Mayor?
If you're talking about 122% of the parking requirement, but that includes the parking that is under the units and people utilizing that. How do you regulate that to make sure that people are using those parking spots instead of filling them with storage materials and then not parking in those spots?
So how do we regulate our residents from parking in those spaces?
Yeah.
We would hope that they would use the garage for that purpose. I mean, naturally, there's going to be some storage in place. But I would anticipate if someone is renting out a 2-car garage and they have 2 cars, that they are both parking in that dedicated space for them. I know I would. I wouldn't. If I had 2 cars, I would rather park in a garage than on a street somewhere.
Mm-hmm. And the other one would be just the height requirement. You had stated that GBD, you'd said the buildings could be 50 feet tall,
That's correct.
but your building, the highest building that you have will be 35 feet.
37 feet.
37?
Yes.
Well below the 50.
Wife's calling. Yes, sir. 37 feet is our tallest at the pitch of the roof, not the roof line.
So that is 30 foot, and I can't see that far. A few inches. 6 inches.
So this is
at
to
the eaves.
the roof line is 30 feet 6 inches. To the peak of the pitch is 37 feet
Okay.
at our highest.
But you also, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
You also stated you're 48% below at the amount of units you're putting in. You're 48% below the amount that would be acceptable if the PUD was in place.
That's correct.
But without the PUD, the general business district zoning puts you at what number?
So I believe it's flipped. I believe the PUD actually allows us a higher density than what the NBD zoning is. This is still our plan today from what is just allowed by right under the NBD zoning is 88 units. So we're 40.
88 units.
Yes, sir. Yes. A PUD allows that to go higher. So if we could do a 4/1 structure here, we don't think that is right for this plan. So we're well under what is that max density allowed by NBD and PUD.
Any other questions?
Yeah, if you were good at the additional parking, you want to add like second.
We'll offer an opportunity for folks to make comments. Thank you, Mr. Oakes.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, I'll open the public hearing for anyone who would like to speak in favor. Anyone who would like to speak in favor? Anyone who would like to speak in favor? Offer an opportunity for anyone who would like to speak opposed. Please state your name.
My name is Tony Boyle. I currently live at 2739 Robertson Avenue, which is the house that will be surrounded on the side yard, the backyard, and phase 2 is already in front of me. So unfortunately, this development will surround me on 3 sides of my property, which is very unfortunate. I first want to start off saying I understand PLK owns this property, and I'm fully aware that something will be constructed on this property. I understand that. I think we all understand that. I appreciate Mick pointing out some key codes that have been met. Specifically for this agenda item, I think the most important code to look at is 115512, which is what is required in order to waive a planned unit development. There are 3 requirements that must be met in order to waive a PUD requirement. The first of that is it must be harmonious and appropriate in appearance with the existing or intended character of the general vicinity. so that you shall not change the essential character of the same area. Right now, this property or this development touches on over 30 different property boundaries. It's either half of it is an unused parking lot or the other half is a completely naturally wooded land. This development proposes 48 three-story townhomes, which would then be towering over the two-story homes. So if you're tearing down all this empty or wooded space and increasing the number of homes on this block by 150%, I would think that that significantly changes the natural character of the land. The second requirement that must be met to waive a PUD is it shall not be hazardous or disturbing to neighboring uses. Again, this property and development touches over 30 different property lines. This construction is directly in our backyard. It's not like phase one and it's not like phase two, which was across the street. Those areas weren't in use anymore. You know, that's a whole different story. This is directly in our backyards. So we're gonna have construction for, probably 18 months, all day, every single day, and directly in our backyards. I would consider that disturbing. Additionally, for my house specifically, I have an egress road next to me. That currently, it was a house and a driveway for one car. There is 48 townhomes. Figure they're two bedroom and 3 bedroom townhomes. So you have 2 cars, 2 garage spots. So figure 100 cars in this development. Even if you take those cars only leaving once per day, that is a 10,000% increase in traffic from what I'm currently dealing with. And that traffic is directly along my property line. Additionally, the current plans show the installation of 3 trees along my entire property line. I don't think 3 trees is going to provide me reasonable privacy for 150 feet of my property line. So I would say it is hazardous and disturbing to neighboring uses. I'm not know the specifics of the weight of trucks, but I'm fully aware that they can weigh anywhere between 20,000 and fully loaded to 80,000 pounds. If there are construction trucks coming in and out of that egress every single day, I have very serious concerns that a 100-year-old foundation is going to be able to withstand that. And I'm very curious to understand if there is damage to my foundation, who's responsible for paying that reimbursement? Is it PLK or is it the city? Because I do have serious concerns regarding that. And the third requirement for a PUD to be waived is it shall not involve uses, activities, processes, materials, equipment, condition of operation that will be detrimental to any person's property or the general welfare by reason of excessive production of traffic, noise, smoke, fumes, or odor. As I stated, this at a minimum would be a 10,000% increase of traffic directly next to me. I would be dealing with the noise of not only the construction behind me, but all the equipment going in and out of the site on a daily basis. That would be an excess production of noise, as well as all the dirt, smoke, and everything else that comes with 18 months of construction. So, as I said, that is section 115512. It's titled Waiver of Planned PUD Requirements. I'm not sure how any 3 of those are met. And my last point on this is Council and Planning Commission actually already voted not to waive PUD requirements, and that, ordinance or agenda item was never vetoed. So I'm curious why we're here today voting on it again. And these design plans are the exact same from the preliminary plan. So if we decide to change our vote, we're just conflicting ourselves because we already said it doesn't meet the requirements. Nothing has changed in these plans. Now we're going to say that that somehow does meet these waiver requirements. So I just ask you guys to take that into consideration. I think the code's pretty clear, and obviously, as I explained and provided very valid points as to why those conditions are not met.
Thank you. Offer an opportunity for anyone who would like to speak opposed. Please state your name.
My name is Jim Lynch. I live at 2721 Robertson Avenue. A lot of same concerns I have, as long as this gentleman had. There's also going to be a fair amount, especially with the street directly behind his houses. There's going to be a lot of light pollution, especially in the evening. And there's also going to be a lot of noise pollution in the evening of cars going down. So he was mentioning on the egress, well, you're going to have that amount going out the egress, you're going to have same coming in the ingress or the entrance. So, you know, with no fence, no height or anything, and sparsely put trees, you know, not particularly fond of just hearing traffic in my back of my house 24/7, especially when it was a nice field. The only thing I had to worry about was, you know, some birds in comparison to what I have now. And then the other thing is mentioning is the height. Across the street, you know, like I said, you have the road. Directly behind our house, we're going to have something approaching 40 feet high. It doesn't really match anything else in the area. It's a fair amount of houses. They're all, you know, you have a couple of 4 families, 2 families, and single families, but I don't think any of them are reaching, you know, 37 feet high, you know, in that area. So we're going to be surrounded, and I'm worried about a little bit of sunlight coming in, you know, for those of us that are right in this area. I mean, buying it, I saw a field. You know, I didn't envision, you know, looking up and seeing, you know, 40 feet, et cetera. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Offer an opportunity for anyone who would like to speak opposed. Please state your name.
Dana Bull. I too am wondering why we're back here, because I thought we had worked our way into a plan that had something like 45 or 46 townhomes, had fewer townhomes. As was mentioned, I think this is the original preliminary plan, not the one that had been edited as a result of other public meetings. So my question is kind of how we got here procedurally, if some items were voted on by the council and not others, because in my opinion, regardless of the land ownership, any landowner has a responsibility to the city. Whether you're a landlord, I'm a landlord, I have responsibilities to the city. And Norwood it's a home rule state, and we have to manage what's here. So, you know, I hope that you step in and kind of clarify some of that for us, because I feel like I've seen so many drawings, but this looks very dense to me compared to what we saw a couple months ago. So that's one thing. Then secondly, I do know that when Mike Skelly came on board, he was charged with revising or just creating some legislation around townhomes, because we anticipated that we would start to see more townhomes. Can you hear me okay? So my understanding is that we have guidelines that insist upon the facades being set back and modulated, not all one flat thing that wind up looking like one building. If we have townhomes, the whole idea is that there's some distinction from one home to another. And that has been made clear in our ordinances, I believe. And so initially, we saw some drawings that had the townhomes set back and differentiated. And now we're seeing drawings that show them one long flat building. So that's my other question. And then to their point about hearing highway noise and so on, you know, we haven't had to cross this bridge before and discuss these items, because over at Rookwood and the new development, sorry, I get them all mixed up if it's Cornerstone or whichever one, but, you know, there's a huge elevation change, and so the buildings are set back, and so you don't have noise, and there's a ton of green space. Well, having green space per the livable area is one thing, but then if we have, what's our setback from the highway? You know, is that 12 feet? Is that 20 feet? And so I see this as a loophole and maybe something we could visit so that you're not, you know, confronted with this. So I think I hit my points. Thank you. I'll ramble.
Thank you. Offer an opportunity for anyone else who would like to speak opposed. Final opportunity for anyone who would like to speak opposed. Okay, we'll now close the public hearing. Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Any comments?
Thank you. Let's see. The findings, my findings, the current parcel known as Multicolored South, 4,500 Beach, located in an MBD zone with a PUD overlay. PLK has purchased the property a few years back, and PLK has also purchased a property located at 2741 Robertson Avenue. This property is adjacent to 4,500 Beach Street, and this will allow the tenants direct access to Robertson Avenue. PLK is requesting that the PUD be waived. This will allow them to build on an underlying zone of the NBD, Neighborhood Business District. There are two comparison charts for pros and cons that I have attached. One chart is for the PUD, the other for the NBD. You will see that the PUD overlay will allow the city of Norwood the ability to control what is developed on the property. If you waive the PUD, this development only allows the NBD zone. The developer can develop the land per the current zoning codes. There are many pros and cons to PUD and the NBD zoning districts for the city of Norwood and the owners. I have selected the major pros and cons for ease of review. I cannot direct the planning commission on how to vote. I can only give you the information that can assist in you making your correct decisions. And in the, I've added that the two charts for you because we've gone through this a number of times. And one of them is when they go to the PUD, they have to follow the design codes, which will be giving some undulation into the elevations of the building. So to answer one of the proponent's questions.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf. Questions for Mr. Wolf?
So Ralph, right now, the preliminary plan PUD was rejected at a planning commission meeting. Is that correct?
No.
I'm trying to get caught up here.
No, this was, at least this is my understanding. This site, as you see it, except for that one piece of parcel at one time, we made a PUD over the large parcel. Then they tried to make a PUD over the little parcel, which is the house that they purchased.
Correct.
That was, if I'm not mistaken, was rejected for the house only.
The PUD was applied to that parcel. Joining the PUDs was rejected.
Okay, joining the PUDs were rejected. Okay, then it went to council.
That was at council.
Oh, out council, okay. And I wasn't at the council meeting, so.
Okay, so I think I'm right. It was rejected here.
The planning commission approved expanding the PUD over the parcel that's the single family home, and then combining the two PUDs into a single, and then approved the preliminary plan for the overall PUD. That then went to council. Council, after action, approved adding the PUD onto the parcel that contained the single family home. Did not approve joining the two PUDs into a single PUD. Then council rejected the preliminary plan, but that ordinance was vetoed. And so the preliminary plan was approved.
Right, so we have a preliminary plan that's been approved.
Correct.
But if I remember at that meeting, there were some shortcomings in the preliminary plan criteria.
Correct.
I'm sorry, I didn't see anything that said we've received all of those from POK.
All the
But when I go on my
concerns you're talking about?
checklist of preliminary plans,
Well, there is a checklist.
yeah,
that
these
we have in our-
plans do not have everything that it requires. And we
Correct.
talked about it at that meeting, and we were asking them to make sure when they do come back for final, that they include all of them.
Okay,
And I had a hard time
I agree.
finding exactly where the changes are, but I don't think
They're
they're
the same.
significant.
From what I reviewed, they look very much the same as the
Okay.
preliminary.
That's, now
But
you
what's in
answered
front
my
of,
question, because
what's
they look almost.
right,
okay.
but what's in front of you right now is to waive the PUD. That's the question.
Correct. I got
Right
it. I
before us
understand.
at this juncture.
But,
Mr. Mayor?
but we're talking about the complete PUD, not certain elements of the PUD.
Correct.
It's to waive, it's to
either-
lift it, it's to remove the
Correct,
PUD
it's-
from this. So there would be no, you got to meet this PUD requirement, this PUD
Correct, no.
requirement.
It's
It's to
gone.
waive it, and it's to revert back to the GBD, the General Business District, or
Zoning that
MBD,
it is in.
MBD coding that's there, zoning code. So
So no, maybe you could, because I was not on the planning commission, when the PUD was put over this parcel, what was the reasoning of the planning commission? I'm trying to figure out why we would want to do that. If there was an emphasis that we put a PUD on it,
I don't
What's
have an
changed?
answer to that.
why would we do that?
I wasn't on the planning commission when that
Okay.
occurred either, so I don't.
So
have
I didn't
the
mean to
answer
put you on the spot, I just
That's all right.
took
Part
a
of the
shot
job.
at maybe you were on it, so, okay.
but
Mayor?
what's the typical reason, and maybe this is a better question for Ralph, what's the typical reason that a planning commission would put a PUD over an area that already has zoning in place? Why would they put that in place? I think I know the answer to
Well,
that,
the
but
PUD gives you a lot more control over a piece of parcel. What you can do for requirements, setback requirements, parking requirements, height requirements, you can modify everything in a PUD. While the GBD has their own standard requirements based on our ordinances and our codes and the building code. But you could modify that in a PUD, which you don't have the ability in an NBD. So you, go ahead, I'm sorry, Mayor.
Mr. Mayor?
well, I think you said it very succinctly. So what a PUD could do is change the density. So instead of the NBD district saying this is how much can go in there, with the PUD, a developer can come and say, we want to put 1,000 homes in here. We want to do a skyscraper that's going to be in this area. And with the PUD over it, the city could look at that and say, okay, it meets the requirements. Let's put a skyscraper.
That's all we can do. The only thing
Let's
that-
put 150 homes in there. But that's where I look at it. It opens up a lot of more creative developments to go within the city. And that's why I put it in. It gives the city the control and the ability to potentially woo somebody in to do something. There's a PUD over this. We can work with you on that. Now, what we're looking at now is a development that the developer's trying to do that meets the Norwood, or meets the underlying zoning, the zoning that's there already. And basically, they don't need a PUD on that property because of the development that they brought forward. Is that not correct? I guess that's you.
I believe that is correct, yes.
So, follow, if we leave the PUD on it, the developer could say, okay, I'm selling it to somebody else. And that developer could come in with a much more dense, much bigger project that meets the PUD requirements. And the city wouldn't, I guess we could deny anything, but doesn't that just take away their property rights? If the city's just going to say, okay, there's a PUD over it, but you came to us with a more dense, you want to put 100 homes in there, we turned it down for 48. We turned it down for 48. Now you want to put 100 in there, and you're gonna put an underground parking garage that's 3 stories deep. And what's to stop it? Why couldn't that be approved, and why wouldn't it be approved in the future if there's a PUD still over that? I don't know that there's an answer to that.
I don't think I have an
Somewhat
answer for that,
rhetorical.
but I think my main reason for my question has to do with open space. And again, I understood all the calculations, but open space is a key criteria of a PUD. And I know what they showed on here, and it doesn't ride, it doesn't flow. I didn't study it, but it feels way more dense And I don't see the open space for the 48 families that are going to live here. I see roads. So, I mean, to me, that gives us the opportunity as a board. And I thought that's what we talked about at the last meeting, at least that I was at. We talked about things like, what else could we do about open space? And I understand that this is just, and I'm not a land designer, I'm not any of those things. So it just feels like we're taking an area and putting in a lot of density, which is fine. But I've been concerned about the road dimension for a long time. And I see the fire department's well represented, but it's just me. Very, very tight. I don't care what the numbers say. I know the way things get done. And I've been to enough developments that the parking looks great on this plan. That's not the way it will operate. It just won't. People will come to visit somebody and they'll park in that roadway. They just will. And it's just going to get very hard to service. I'll stop. Anyway, I get it. Everything you said is true, Nick. That's the reason that the PUD was placed on there. It gives more opportunity for someone like us, a group like us, to put some reasoning into a developer saying, you could do this if you did, but we also can give leeway. It's a little bit both ways. Okay, I'll stop.
I would say, taking a look at this site plan, understanding that they've computed, the 42% open space, which doesn't take into account the detention basin. It's a difficult site. It slopes off heavy toward the highway. And I think it is also worth bearing in mind that while we're looking here just at the corner of Robertson and Beach, the other corner of Robertson and Beach is Doral Field, which is a very large city park. And also just slightly off of this is Marsh Park. So this area is serviced by two of the city's parks within a very close proximity. So it does, I think, well meet the 25% requirement. I think, if you wanted to quibble about whether it's really 42% or not, I think it shows that it's well over 25%, especially when you consider the slope that occurs on this. It's a difficult site. This is not, sir, this is not the time for you to talk. Further discussion amongst the commissioners? Seeing none, entertain any motion?
I would make a motion to waive the PUD request, or waive the PUD.
Is there a second?
Are you talking for both parcels? There?
This specific
Because we have
one
the
that we're
two.
going over right now,
Right.
they're not connected. I think we're talking about the large partial, unless there's something defined. We're talking about, for this project, 4500 Beach Street, Robertson South, Norwood, Ohio, 45212.
Okay.
I'll second. Mrs. Town, would you please call the roll?
Chairman Powers,
Yes?
Mayor Schneider,
Yes.
Mrs. Signature, no, Mr. Stewart,
No.
Motion does not pass. Moving on to item 3. Mick Oaks, Associate Developer with PLK Communities, is submitting a final planned unit development, PUD plan for the property south of Robertson Avenue, known as 4500 Beach Street, Norwood, Ohio, 45212. 2.839 acreage, Hamilton County Auditor's Book 651, page 003, parcel 0206, located within the NBD PUD Neighborhood Business District. Planned unit development overlay, including the proposed PUD expansion, 2741 Robertson Avenue, Norwood, Ohio, 45212. Hamilton County Auditor Book 651, page 0030, parcel 0194-00. Mr. Oaks?
Thank you. Just want to clarify. So the last time this was in front of Planning Commission, we did have the preliminary plan for the PUD was approved, and that is what went on to council. So a little confusion. I mean, our preliminary plan had everything that is required of a final PUD included in the preliminary documents. If you remember correctly, once the preliminary was approved, we actually had the final plan PUD when we were back at the end of the summer. The only reason that was the final plan PUD was not approved was there was some question maybe on if the fire department, all of their comments had been met. Chief McCabe is here. I would be happy if he's willing to come up and speak. We've met all of their comments in this updated plan. There's actually been some revisions to this plan that is different from the preliminary plan that incorporates their comments. So unless Ralph, you can quote what we're missing in this final PD submission, we believe that everything on this plan, final PUD, is what is required. We actually have a checklist on our documents that we have dropped off. So Ralph, unless I'm missing something, but we've had a couple different meetings where we've provided every document that's needed for a final PUD, and would be happy if Chief McCabe is willing to come up after I'm done speaking and talk through some of the changes that we've made to this plan that should answer all the questions that were left on the table from the last Planning Commission meeting. That being said, I would like to walk through some of what is required of the final PUD checklist that we've included in this plan. The certified survey and legal plats, that's on page 7, that's been included. Final site plan showing 48 townhomes, that is also included. A landscaping and lighting plan. Parking plan included on page 17. Final drainage and grading plan, page 11. This is where you can see that topography. And that's part of the question of this open space. I mean, this is the code of a PUD, and we've talked about this before. It's in vague, right? We're showing now we're keeping all those trees on that tough topography sloping down. If we clear those trees, does that make it considered open space? That's up to interpretation. We don't believe that's the case. We don't believe that that's the best use of that area is to clear all those trees. It's certainly something we can do and look into if that is what would be considered open space for that area. Just want to back up to and address some of the other comments that we heard. So I'll try to capture as many as I can. The average height of homes in this area is 33 feet. Our roof peak is underneath that 33 feet, and we're at 37 at the top. So this is not disproportionately scaled. We are well within that margin of homes that are in that neighborhood. Also, our grades go with the topo. So as the front on Beach, the site slopes down. So we are sitting towards the back half lower than the houses on the street. So we'll actually, our townhomes will sit lower than some of the other homes. That goes into light pollution as well. The slabs go with the topography of this site. So it's not perfectly flat, and our homes we're well within the scaling of that neighborhood. Open space, we talked about this. This is not including that retainage pond up front, but we're still showing trees on that slope. We're showing a 42.6% open area space, not including that. So whichever way you slice it, we are well with over the 25% that is required from a PUD submission, especially if you incorporate it into the Factory 52 PUD, which is north of this site, which is also in the 40% for the entire Factory 52 MCC North PUD as well. So in conclusion, this plan is fully compliant with the final PUD guidelines. Proposed density is approximately 57% below the maximum allowable, something I didn't touch on as well. With the PUD overlay, it actually gives us I believe it's a 20% density bump, which takes us to 100 from the 88 to 120 some units, which is, Mayor, which you were saying, someone could theoretically come in and propose a 4-story over 2 levels of parking with 120 some odd units in the building there. Our density is 57% below that. Site plan does not change. And finally, Norwood Fire Department has signed off on the site plan, and all comments of theirs have been addressed. So be happy to talk with any more of what we are missing from a final plan, but I don't believe that we're missing anything. So any questions that staff has?
Questions from the commission? Mr. Mayor?
So you're stating that the plan we are looking at today, this plan, this information has been updated and does meet the requirements of the fire department and others that were brought forward by staff at the city of Norwood.
That is correct.
This that we're looking, the one I have in front of me, there has not been any other new ones. This is, what you're submitting today is it.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is the right one.
That's the one.
And it has been updated, and there have been edits and corrections made to.
That is
Okay.
correct.
I just want to make sure that's clear, that it's the one we have in front of us, that we've all reviewed. Okay.
Other questions for Mr. Oakes?
I know I sounded like I'm belaboring one point, but just so I can understand, I've never talked about the open space, and I've read it over and over again. So when you call open space, you're including all of the land that's basically not a parking lot or building pad. That's what you're considering open space.
That is, yes, sir. That is how the code we're interpreting it is
Well,
open
I
space.
just,
Well,
again, I'm reading it different, that it says, proposed and permitted by this section dedicated to public or private open space for recreational facilities. In other words, it sends the message that it's open space for the 48 units and their participants. I don't understand, that's what I didn't understand when I asked the question. The way I read that definition, it's very different than the way you're reading it. And I'm just, that's just
Absolutely.
me. Obviously, I'd have to rely on Ralph.
But I would
again.
also say, sorry, apologies for interrupting, but this is how it was interpreted for all the phase 1 and phase 2 open area requirements. We're not moving the goalposts on how we're calculating this open space.
And
This is how it always
it's
has
my
been.
fault for assuming that you weren't. I didn't mean to be so strong in that, but I just don't understand how that could be open space for the use of all of the 48 townhouses and their children, et cetera. Okay, I got it. And I stand corrected. Your numbers do make sense.
Mr. Mayor?
Looking on page 9 of the current plan here that we're looking at, current plan, on page 9, there's a proposed retaining wall behind the 12 townhomes. Why is there required a proposed retaining wall there?
The topography change. We need something to retain. It's actually going to provide some buffering from those houses to the south as well. But there is a steep topography change that we have to account for with the retaining wall there.
So the hillside, there's the hillside. Now, this retaining wall is going to, but on that hillside, there are trees.
That's correct.
And the existing trees that have been there for years. And we've talked about, if you remove all those trees and plant seed on that hillside, it would actually increase the amount, the calculation for open space. If you remove all the trees and plant grass.
That's correct.
And we don't want you to do that. And we recognize that's not the preferred, and none of the neighbors behind there want you removing all the trees. That's part of the buffer zone and screening.
Certainly.
Clearly. But the topography there. And then on the far side where the drive comes out, right on the other side, there's a treed area there, a buffer zone there. But right on the other side of that is Interstate 71, right? And it didn't move there. It's been there for all the years that I've lived here. Interstate 71's there. And pretty much when you talk about road noise in the city of Norwood, I really rarely know of any house in the city of Norwood that doesn't have a highway that's very close to it that you can hear. So when you talk about road noise on this, in these areas, I have the leaves are coming down. I'm sitting in my porch, and it's like, wow, you can even hear the highway more now. But that's everywhere in the city of Norwood. It'd be nice if we were a rural area and didn't have. We are surrounded by highways, surrounded, and that's a plus and a minus. So it's an important aspect of this. The reason why this wasn't developed and why somebody didn't. So all right, that's all I have for right now.
Any other questions for Mr. Oakes? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I would like for the chief to come up since he's here.
Chief McCabe?
We won't waste his time coming over to City Hall. Have they met the requirements that the fire department worked with them on, I suspect?
So our initial objection to the initial one was put forth was it did not meet the minimum standards for roads in terms of width. They were helpful in terms of sitting down, having conversations about what we required in terms of meeting the minimum. They did go above and beyond in terms of the additional fire hydrant that we asked for in terms of, look, it's a one-way road entry, so we have a little concern about access to water in that area. And so they added an additional hydrant that was above the minimums. When they say we signed off, I will just say that we don't do sign-offs per se. We just said that, yes, it meets the minimum fire code standard required for the project. But they were very willing to sit down and walk through it and listen to our concerns regarding the spaces that we need for our apparatus access.
Mr. Mayor?
Were you able to share the new fire hydrant requirement that City Council is reviewing right now for that fourth fire hydrant instead of just?
Well, knowing that those project won't get underway for a little bit with that, I believe that the new standard will be in place for them to do that. Now, it's not necessarily a public main, so it's a private, but we would encourage them to do that, and we will share that.
Mr. Mayor?
And the requirement for these units, for all of these units, is that they have a fire suppression system within them. They're all sprinkled units. Is that correct?
It should be. Now, we've not seen fire protection planning for them, but the building code would require this type of development to be sprinkled.
So every one of them will have a sprinkler system in it and 4 fire hydrants on site also.
Yep.
Any other questions for Chief McCabe?
You've been in front of it quite often. I've heard.
Thank you, Chief.
Well, I'm sorry, one last. Sure. And this, I think this is a legitimate concern because Bernie had brought up, and I think others have brought up, the traffic flow through. So EMS runs, and you guys can get an ambulance through just about anywhere. But on EMS runs, I mean, this could be a tight area back through if somebody is not parking properly. Is that something that the fire code would go through, fire department, fire inspector would go through and say, you're not allowed to park here and go after people?
So enforcement of fire lane violations is difficult at times, specifically on private property. We do have some concerns, and we shared that openly in the meeting that, we've got 48 townhomes with people moving in and out of on an annual basis per se, or however it works out. Amazon delivery, food delivery, and what does that do to that space? Now, from a fire protection standpoint, that will slow us down a little bit because fire trucks are slightly wider. Ambulances probably won't have as big of an impact, but also we're not looking at large numbers of responses to a facility like this. And when we see impact in terms of like even Factory 52, as large of an area as that is, we don't generally see a large impact in terms of run volume from something like that. Mm-hmm. Something to be concerned of for sure. We expressed our issues primarily with the fire protection side, but with it being sprinkled, we were okay with at least the Ohio Fire Code minimum. We could have asked to stay at the Southwest Ohio Fire Code, which was an even wider street. However, the buildings being fire protected, we opted for the Ohio Fire Code minimum. We thought it was applicable for this type of development.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Mr. Oakes, I did have one clarifying question. Could you tell us the number of two-bedroom units and the number of three-bedroom units?
So it's the 3-bedroom units are on the ends of the blocking. So 2, 4, 6, 8. I believe it's 8 3-bedrooms, 12 3-bedrooms, and the rest are 2s.
Thank you.
Quick question I have on the interior roads. I read that, I guess I thought they were Norwood roads. These are PLK roads?
That's correct.
Yeah, they're not dedicated.
It's not dedicated.
Not dedicated.
Undedicated PLK roads, and as well as the water and sewers?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
The city would maintain the utilities to the point that they come into the development.
To the property line? Correct.
Everything inside the development is maintained by PLK.
And I know it's in here somewhere, and I apologize. I remember seeing it before. Off of the interior roadways, cars pull in, and it's a double-car garage. That's typical on all the units. What is the depth of that drive?
I can pull it up for you. I don't know if I have it exactly in here. Well, that's the depth of the, yeah. The depth of the garage is 28 feet. Are you asking about the approach?
I'm asking from the edge of the pavement to the garage door.
I can get that for you. It's a few feet. I don't know exactly how many feet.
More like a 10-foot at the most number.
It's not a 10-foot. You could not park a car vertically or horizontally in that space.
So
It's meant for, it's an apron
I'm trying to
pull
make
into
sure.
it.
These are not parking pads.
That's correct.
They're pull-in pads.
It's barely. It's more of an apron to go from the road into
Got it.
the
And I
garage.
I remember the fire chief when I was here last time, I said, you know, that is something that has always concerned me as I looked at your development. It's your development, but, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Oaks. Mr. Wolf, any comments?
Yes, I mean, you've read my comments before on my spreadsheet, but one of the comments, because if you vote on yes for a PUD, one of the controlling factors I would, because the roads are on the narrow side, I would put in there that they cannot have the snow removal stack up in the roads. They have to be pushed to a side somewhere into the parking spaces. So if there is an emergency, they could get around, especially in the front, right next to, I want to, not Robertson, right next to Beach. Those are kind of narrow, so I just want to make sure that the fire department can get through. Because if they just pile it up in no man's land, you may have a problem.
Thank you.
Okay. And Mr. Mayor, I think you were thinking, yeah, the buildings will have suppression systems in it, and they will. But fire suppression systems are designed not to put out the fire, but to help people get out of, for the safety of the people, and wet things down so they have enough time to get out and keep the smoke down. That's what they're really for. Okay. I just want to, you made it sound like, the way I read it was, you were thinking it was to help put out the fire.
Oh, I'm sure that a fire suppression system helps.
Yeah, it
minimize
does.
the amount of damage,
It keeps
gives
things
the
wet,
fire
but it's more designed to help the people get out safely. That's what it's really for.
Questions for Mr. Wolf? Okay. We'll now open the public hearing. Offer an opportunity for anyone who would like to speak in favor of the proposed final PUD. Opportunity for anyone who would like to speak in favor of the proposed final PUD. An opportunity for anyone who would like to speak in favor of the proposed final PUD. Offer an opportunity for anyone who would like to speak opposed. Please state your name.
Tony Boyle. I have a few things to say, but since we're on the topic of garages, I'll start there. The garage depth is 18 feet deep per the plans. The garage width is 18 feet. The actual required Ohio code for a two-car garage, the minimum is 20 feet wide. So these garages are 18 feet wide, but the Ohio code is 20 feet wide. Recommended is 24 feet wide. So my concern with parking is if these garages are 18 feet wide, it is extreme. One, it doesn't meet code. Two, it's extremely difficult for two cars to park in this garage. So you have 48 townhomes, so you have about 100 cars. So you can't park on the apron in front of the driveway. You can't park on the internal roads, and you probably can't fit two cars into the garage door. I think is 16 feet wide. The total garage is 18 feet wide. So these extra 24 cars that don't fit in the driveway or in the garage are going to park in the extra 20 spaces. Well, we still have 4 leftover cars, and those spots extra 20 spots are supposed to be for all the guests. So where is everyone going to park? These streets meet the bare minimum of 20 feet wide for the fire truck. So anyone that's parked in front of their garage or on the road is going to inhibit any emergency vehicles from being able to access that area. So one, that's a safety concern. And two, per my understanding, Ohio code, if you're considering a 2-car garage, it has to be at least 20 feet wide, and the recommended is 24 feet wide. These are 18 feet wide. Additionally, kind of to go back from the very beginning, as Bernie asked for some clarification, because I think we've all been kind of confused because we actually have 2 PUDs. We have MCC South PUD and we have 2741 Robertson PUD. 2741 has a separate PUD on it from the MCC South PUD. Council voted to put a PUD on both. There is currently a PUD on both. Council did not vote to include 2741 PUD into the large PUD. So when we look at these plans and it shows the egress road being used at 2741, I'm confused on how that accurately defines the perimeter of this land. And if 2741 is not included in this PUD, which per council's vote it wasn't, then there is no egress road for this entire development. And I brought that up to council and I was shot down saying, well, no, we'll talk about it later. No, we need to talk about it now because we residents live here and we have serious safety concerns. And we want to make sure that those are taken care of before we move forward in the process. And if we're talking about safety concerns, I also want to bring up phase 1 and phase 2 again. Because phase 1 traffic study here was conducted in, I know it was in 2020. I don't know the exact month. The numbers used were during COVID. In addition, in the executive summary, it specifically states that intersection improvements were required at Park Ave and Forest Ave. The intersection has not been updated. That was a requirement of phase 1. That hasn't been met. Additionally, the executive summary of the traffic study in 2020 states that all intersections, which includes 7 intersections, must be reevaluated after the completion of phase 1. That has not been done. Now, yes, there was a traffic study done September 16th of 2024. That included 3 intersections. And again, that was all based off of assumed predictive data. There has not been a single real traffic study done on any real numbers for phase 1. So that's another concern in terms of safety. Phase 2, that was approved on 11/6. That was approved with the conditional amendment that all unresolved safety concerns would be addressed. And the building department specifically stated that included an updated traffic study because the civil engineers actually found that the traffic studies had a number of discrepancies. That was 11/6. The latest traffic study on file is September of 2024. So when council told me last time that a traffic study has been done and I wasn't able to rebuttal, that is factually not true. On record, the last 2 traffic studies are here. So we're not in violation for phase 1 still. We're not in violation of phase 2 still. I think it's pretty irresponsible for us to approve another development when we haven't studied phase 1 implications. And phase 2 implications are unknown because it hasn't been built yet. And, I'm not a traffic study expert. I'm not claiming to be either, but, some of my thoughts on maybe why the city engineers stated that there was discrepancies might possibly include that data was 3,000 employees was assumed for playing card factories. There was never more than 750 employees at that site at one single time. Additionally, when Multicolor was bought, I lived there. I see how many cars are there. I don't know the exact numbers. I can tell you, though, there was never more than 10 cars there. So we'll give it 50 employees. The traffic data was used using 320,000 square foot. That was the number used to assume traffic patterns for MCC South. So, yeah, obviously the data is going to show that there is a 40% reduction in traffic thanks to phase 1 and phase 2. That is just astronomically not true, and it would be proven not to be true if we actually took real traffic studies instead of used assumed data with skewed numbers. Additionally, the traffic studies do not include any recreational traffic. So, nothing about pickleball, none of that traffic's included. None of the dog park traffic is included. And they have events on a weekly basis, if not daily basis. They just had a 5-day carnival festival for Halloween. That's not in any of these traffic reports, nor the watch parties, the concerts, the events, the shows. Yes, phase 1 and phase 2 has great green space. I will say that. And a lot of that green space is used for all these activities. But, we have to calculate all that traffic into, our decision when we're doing this. And the reason why I bring that up is because per these plans, which I still don't understand how it's possible if the PUDs wasn't granted into the larger PUD, we have another egress road coming onto Robertson South. So as of now, you have Robertson traffic going 2 ways. Phase 2 already has 2 egresses coming out. Now we're going to have a 3rd egress. So within 100 yards of street width, we have 5 different traffic patterns to deal with. To break it down further, say I want to back out of my driveway. I have 5 different traffic patterns to figure out. Not to mention, if I look to my left, there's a sharp bend and you can't see the cars coming over the Oakley Bridge into Norwood. So that view is blocked. I look to my right, I have parked cars along the entire street of Robertson. So that view is blocked. So, I'm just going and hoping for the best. And I've explained this many times. I sat up here, I've been doing it for now 12 months. Speed humps, we've asked about that beforehand. It's an extremely cost-effective solution to helping with this traffic. We can't even get, the basic minimums of safety put in place for these developments, yet we're here talking about a 3rd development. So sorry to bore you with some previous history, but I think it's important to understand that information. Obviously, as Bernie mentioned and Mick mentioned, open space has been probably one of the #1 big topics of this entire development from the beginning when it was first submitted to now. This is a PUD. So there is 27 different codified ordinances that must be met for a PUD. So, when we say there's this checklist, I'm not sure what checklist we're talking about. But when I go and look up the codes, there's 27 different codes for a PUD. There's a specific code on common open space, also known as green space. That is code 11508. As stated by both sides, at least 25% of the total land shall be dedicated to open space. I think we can all agree on that. As Bernie mentioned, what's the definition of green space? Well, per the Norwood Code, the definition of green space, it must be physically suited so as to be readily accessible, available to, and useful to all occupants. So whether the trees are there or the trees are not there, if you have a severely steep slope leading to a highway, I don't think regardless if there's trees or not, it's not usable green space. It's located at the very back of the development on a steep hill. It's not accessible. So I do struggle as well understanding how this meets the criteria of green space. And Mr. Powers, thank you for clarifying the total population density, because that is another requirement that I was not able to find. It was presented here today, so now we at least know those numbers, but that's not in the plans, which is required. I also just want to point out, because council had said, we talked with council for many, many hours over a couple of different sessions the last time we discussed this PUD. And I just want to clarify that with a PUD per code, both Planning Commission and the council has 3 options. They can approve it, they can modify and approve, or they can disapprove. So when council in Norwood City is telling us, well, sorry, tough luck for you. I feel bad that you're surrounded on 3 sides of your property and you have a minimum of a 10,000% traffic increase next to you. We can't do anything about it. That's factually false. If there's a PUD over top of the development, Planning Commission and Council can make modifications and recommendations, just like we did for Phase 2 when we said that all the unresolved safety needed to be addressed and that an updated traffic study would be done before any building permits were issued. Yet building permits were issued prior to. Another thing, I mentioned earlier, to me, maybe I'm incorrect, but these seem to be the exact same plans as the preliminary plans. And the reason why I say that is in the preliminary plans, the streets were 18 feet wide, which did not meet the fire code. Since then, to my understanding, the streets have been widened to 20 feet. If every street in the development was widened by 2 feet, how did the definition of common open space remain at 42.6%? It's physically impossible to have the exact same amount of tree percentage if you expanded every single road in the development. So when we say that these plans have been updated, I have questions on that because the information that I'm looking at is not updated. Another example, there's been, I guess, multiple plans submitted. There's only been 2 made public to us. I know one was made public the day of the actual council meeting that had the different lists of the roads. But just another example of is, we've been told 48 homes, we've been told 45 homes. Council's been told 48, been told 45. And yet the plans are still the same. So, it just goes to show that design plans are not being taken seriously and they're not accurate in regards to safety or regulations. I already spoke about the garage widths. Those do not meet code and obviously going to be too tight for 2 cars to go into. So where is all those people going to park? Something small, but I think, just goes to show why residents are upset. Look at where the dumpster is located on this development. Right in the backyard of a neighbor. So when I come out of my house, it's catty corner from my property, or when my neighbor comes out, it's in their backyard. But yes, the dumpster will be screened. Okay, understandable. Well, if the dumpster is so well screened, I'm sure residents won't care to have it in their backyard if it's well screened. It's just these small things that, residents that have been here for I don't know how long are just, getting toppled over, and we feel that, we are making very reasonable requests to council and to try, as I said, things will be built on this property. We understand that. It needs to be responsible. It needs to follow code. It needs to take in safety. It needs to take in traffic consideration. It needs to take in noise. It needs to take in all those things to be responsible. Another big piece, side regulation setbacks. I know for parked cars it's 5 feet, and I know on this development plan it says it varies 5 to 10 feet. And again, I don't know how this road is still on the plan, but that road is 18 or 20 feet wide, and there's a 4-foot wide sidewalk. What is the legal required setback for a road? Because if it is 10 feet, it is impossible to fit that legal requirement of 10 feet on each side of the road and a sidewalk. It can't be done. The property is not wide enough for that. My neighbor, he brought up street lighting. I have a right to privacy. So we have 3-story homes that are towering your backyard, but also I have an egress road next to me. An egress road has to be lit at all times for safety measures. My property line is right next to it. So my property now is going to be lit at all hours of the night. I don't think that is reasonable to my privacy. And I would like to see further clarification per code 115314 lighting, which states that, any lights used to illuminate shall be located, screened, shielded, and designed to minimize spillover to other properties. I'd like to, get some more clarification on that to ensure, I don't have lights on my property at all times of the day. Because I actually already have headlights, coming into my front house because phase 2 has a road that is directly across the street in eye level with my front door. Lots of things that I could say regarding this PUD, as I'm sure you guys are aware, that just don't meet code. Lot regulations 155.05. Perimeter requirements, if the development does not provide reasonable privacy for existing uses adjacent, Commission and Council shall impose the following, which is to ensure that all structures are well screened. My question is how do we well screen 3-story homes from 2-story homes? And this development, what's the perimeter on there? Is there going to be a privacy fence? Are there going to be trees? My property line is 150 feet wide or long. There are 3 trees being built to protect me from privacy. 3 trees for 150 feet to protect my privacy. I don't think that is adequate or reasonable. Sorry I'm taking up so much time, but I do strongly feel when I say this that if any one of you were in my same position, you would be standing right where I'm standing. I'm surrounded by 3 sides by a single developer. We've already dealt with 5 years of continuous construction. We're looking at another 2 to 3 more. So what am I doing, and what do I think you guys would do if you were in the same position? You'd be standing right here, defending your property, standing up for your right to privacy, and ensuring code is met. You'd also be ensuring that the city that you pay taxes to and the officials that you elected to do their job responsibly are looking out for the Norwood residents and the safety of all, not putting the interest of an outside developer above Norwood residents. Again, we can make accommodations or recommendations to this PUD. You always counteroffer. I mean, we sit here and we're just letting someone do whatever they want and not considering the homes that have been here for hundreds of years. Nor are we looking at the traffic and safety concerns. Another thing, the egress road, whether that's legal there or not, I've been told that it is a right turn only. I'm concerned because the plans don't show it's a right turn only. And considering my driveway is right next to it, as soon as I go to back out of my driveway and someone turns left, what's going to happen? The cars are going to collide. I mean, there's just so many different aspects of traffic and safety that need to be looked at before we can move forward with approving this. We just need to be responsible. And I know it was spoke about previously at the first planning commission. Ultimately, you could decrease the number of homes in here and build a turnaround and not have to destroy a home and put an egress road right next to 2 properties. I mean, that was the original design plan, I believe. But, so be it. If that's what the developer wants to do, that's what they're going to do. And Norwood doesn't have any right to give their recommendation. They do have that right to give their recommendation and stand up for the Norwood residents. I know I've been talking a lot, but again, I'm just here defending my right to privacy and protecting my property. I never would have imagined when I bought my house that I'd be surrounded on 3 sides of my development or my house by the single developer and dealing with 8 years of continuous construction. It's a very big pain in the butt. So I think I've discussed plenty here today. I'm more than happy to share more information via email or in writing regarding the code violations. But I think I just want to close. We all understand that PLK owns this property. We understand that there's going to be development on this property. What Norwood residents are asking is that the development is responsible, safe, and meets all required city code as outlined in the codified ordinances, specifically Chapter 1155, which is Plan Unit Developments. Residents also ask that our right to privacy be upheld and not infringed upon. For many meetings and hours of discussion, Planning Commission and all 7 council members expressed multiple concerns regarding this project, specifically the density and the use of open space. Yet, 12 months later, many meetings later, we are looking at the exact same plans. Both Planning Commission and Council have the right, which is outlined in the codified ordinance, to modify a PUD. In no way, shape, or form is this green space meet the requirements. It is not accessible, it is not usable, and is not physically suited for the residents of this plan unit development. It interrupts the privacy of 30+ current properties in this development, and of which it's sandwiched between. Proper consideration for safety, traffic, infrastructure, noise, privacy, and code has not been given. Again, I'm just extremely confused as to why we're even here considering this vote when Phase 1 requirements have not been met, Phase 2 requirements have not been met, and I've continuously asked how we're able to have a PUD and how we're able to have an egress when 2741 is not included and was voted on to not be included in this development plan. I don't understand how that works, and I would like some clarification on that, and I would also like clarification on what the actual legal side setbacks are for a road. And from my point of perspective, I believe it's a corner lot because there is a road next to me and there's a road in front of me. So I think that also extends the side setbacks. So I think that's something that we definitely need to look at before approving, because then these plans would all be null and void because they don't meet any of the required code. Sorry for taking up so much time. Obviously, I've had a lot to say. I think there's a lot of issues with this development, as we've all discussed and have been discussing for 12 months. Again, I'd be more than happy to have an open conversation where we can all come together and decide on something that is beneficial to the entire city, which is the ultimate goal of a PUD from the get-go. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm also open to any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Boyle. Anyone else who would like to speak opposed? Please state your name.
Dana Bowl. When I look at the drawing, specifically the turning radiuses, I just want to, on public record, get confirmation that the fire truck can make the turning radius, because when I look at these, I think the fire truck's at least 2 townhomes long. And I'm thinking that when they make that turn, they need the full width of that street to make the turn. And so that means I guess they're all one way, is that right? So then you don't have two-way traffic. And because, we keep going back and forth between, it's our property, it's the city's property, oh, the city can't make us do, or whatever. Well, then what if there's a bottleneck, the fire truck can't get in and people die, then who's at fault? And so I would like you guys to have that conversation, because I don't, the chief is here, and so I think we need that's a situation where we need some hard confirmation on whether that can happen in what they've drawn here. Also, again, the sprinkler system, hearing about it for the first time, that sounds great, but is it on the drawings? Is this one of these things that when we get underway, oh, well, we decided we weren't going to do that, and that'll be completely okay. If they pile up the snow in the street, oh, we don't have to do that, or by the time they get through wrangling and getting to the inspection, oh, well, it's springtime. Whoopsie. So, there has to be some accountability here on that. You know how I feel about facades? One reason that there is that distinction of having the facade not be flat is because when GM was really rolling, there were a lot of infill apartment buildings put in long ways on different lots, especially in West Norwood, and they are very flat and they are very non-conforming. And people were upset about that, like this was really not great for the neighborhood, and it hurt privacy for the homeowners on either side. So that's one reason why they seem like small things, but they create a better experience for everybody over time and actually help preserve value. So that's it. Mostly the turning radius. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak opposed? Anyone else to speak opposed? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Discussion amongst commission members? Seeing none, I'll entertain any motion.
Actually, may I say something?
Yes.
So months ago, PLK was approached about modifications, and modifications weren't on the table. Is that accurate? What we see is what we get. Is that correct? No, modifications were brought up like, oh, is there wiggle room? That was brought up with Sam Bowling, Norwood City Council member. She brought that up. And at that time, you guys said that modifications weren't an option.
Would you please come to the microphone?
Yeah, a couple things. So,
Will you
correct.
state your name for our reporter?
Sorry, Nick Lingenfelter, Chief Development Officer, PLK Communities.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. So I believe the question was, nobody asked us to modify the overall plan. There's a question of would we be able to modify it, reduce the number of units?
Yes.
And what we had said was we've already reduced the number of units significantly to a point where it's pretty tough to be profitable. So what I said is we can't significantly take any more units away because we have to cover the cost of basically removing between 10 and 12 feet of soil over roughly half of this site to remediate it as we're required to do by OEPA. So it is a 7-figure sum to put a shovel in the ground. And on top of the cost of land acquisition. So if we start taking additional units away, there's really not a lot of room to make any money at all at that point.
So profits are more important than the community trying to keep these neighbors happy in homes that they own.
That's not at all what I said, ma'am. So we have to make a profit because we have agreed to clean up the site. So we can't just go spend another $1 million cleaning up a site that has stuff that was dumped on it from a prior owner. So all of a sudden that money gets spent. We have to build a certain number of units in order to cover the cost.
So you weren't
I'm
aware
not
of
saying
that?
What's that?
You weren't aware of that when the land was purchased?
We knew what we were requiring. Well, so here's the thing, it came with the site next door. We never wanted to go across the street. We've said this, but we've also agreed that this is part of that property. So this came with that purchase. We did not say we want to go buy this property on our own. We were required to buy this property with it because it's under the same covenant not to sue with the Ohio EPA that it must be remediated together. So it wasn't us saying, hey, let's go put more houses over there. We do have enough to build on the main site. Unfortunately, this is a site that needs to be remediated as part of our agreements. So this is the absolute bare minimum number of units we can get on here to even make this deal work economically. We don't have a bank loan. We can't do things at a loss or all of a sudden it doesn't work. So it is not about profits. It is about how do we get this site remediated, cleaned up. And we absolutely could have put a podium on there and put 3 to 4 stories above it and had significantly more on here. But what we did was we looked at the size of the house in the neighborhood. We looked at the other products in the area and said, how do we get something in here that fits? The zoning allowed us to go almost double, but we didn't. We tried to make sure what we were building made sense for the neighborhood, and townhomes allowed us to get the density we had in order to make enough money to pay for the cleanup and to make the deal work. It wasn't about how much money can we maximize. We didn't want to buy the house. We were told that we needed to buy a home so we could exit and have a secondary exit. All of that added additional money because in order to get the fire trucks through the way that they needed it to have it, that's why that's there. He's right, we did have a turnaround, but we were told that plan was not viable. So what we were doing is saying, how do we make this plan work as best as possible and not have a larger building? This entire area is zoned business district. Every one of those homes could have many more on them by the way they're zoned. That's why we're in the spot we're in right now, is because we were trying to figure out how we do it as minimally invasive as possible, but at the same time meet all of our agreements with the government. And that's why we're here today.
I'm sure the residents are really thankful that you're not putting 88 units on there. So thank you for that.
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Mayor?
So the grounds that you have back there right now are considered gray. They're not, clearly not greenfield, because that would be like there was a garden back there. These are all, there were, in previous years, previous owners had dumped chemical waste in that area behind these people's homes, in that parking lot, but behind their homes. So the people who live there have had, you're right, a parking lot right behind them, but they've had chemical waste there for years. Even they probably didn't even know it, really. Realistically, they didn't realize it when they bought their homes. They didn't say, "Oh my gosh, that's brownfield. That needs to be cleaned up." Which you can tell if you went up to the Perry and Derrick site. You can look. We can't develop anything there. It's a super fun grant. Nobody wants to live next to that. Nobody wants to know that there's a brownfield right behind their house. But what your company is doing, what your organization, what you do is you come in and you have to clean that up before you can do it. Now the basements on these units will go down 10 feet into the surface.
There are no basements on this unit, sir. What we're actually required to do is do sub-slab depressurization systems and vapor systems on them. So we're required.
But why do you have to, why can't you put basements on this area?
Well, this specific area, the way the topography changes and the way the houses are attached and they step down, we would actually have an issue with we need one flat foundation per structure. So we're working with those foundations and trying to get our utility lines and everything else lined up.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. What's the process for cleaning up the chemical waste that was dumped on this area prior to doing any development?
There's a few different things that we're going through. So you have two issues we're contending with. One, yes, there was absolutely stuff dumped by Multicolor. You can see about 2/3 of this was cleared at one point in the 70s. And the other issue is this is also it's basically dirt and other debris from when they put the highway in. That's the two things that are there, because this site was originally a highway exit that never got built. So as the highway went through, the state came through and seized the back of Multicolor and US Plain Card. And in return, they gave them this parcel filled with their controlled fill. And then Multicolor put a parking lot and stored drums and everything else on this property. So we have two different things we're contending with. One, we have to clean up the waste. And two, we basically have a fill that we can't build upon. So we then have to make soil modifications in some other various processes to build on top of it as well. So we actually have two different things that are going on that have to take place on this property.
Okay. Can I do a follow-up? When you purchased the Multicolor property, you demoed out the 4-story brick building that was all along Robertson Avenue with the fire escapes, the metal fire escapes that were all rusty hanging down. You demoed out all that with the windows and glass, all that stuff. Why did you demo that out? Why didn't you just condo that and keep that whole building there?
Because when we walked the site, most of us got sick. I did. The first day I walked it, I had to go home and lay down. I had a headache for a day and a half afterwards. I don't know how people worked in some of those areas. But we could not get it to a point where we were allowed to occupy it as any type of office or any other type of residential use. That's also part of the agreement with the Ohio EPA. So the Ohio EPA issued the prior owner what's called a covenant not to sue for industrial use. But that doesn't mean you can go put office or anything else in there. What you then have to proceed to do is clean it up and bring it up to a new standard. So what we have since done is brought up that main parcel to that new standard, which we will then test those slabs as soon as those buildings are complete. And then the same thing occurs here. We will go in, we will clean up the site, we will do some ground modification for the slabs and foundations, and then we'll actually come in and test those slabs once the buildings are complete to show that our vapor systems are working properly, and will be subject to a monitoring schedule they will lay out for us over between 5 and 10 years afterwards on these structures.
Yeah, and I don't mean to really hit you with all these questions too, but ultimately, the Multicolor building was how tall? Because as I remember it, delivering papers and walking up and down that street, it was 4 stories tall. I mean, it was at least.
It was almost 5 at one point.
Please?
Yeah, so if you went halfway down Robertson, it was almost 5 stories because the basement came out of the ground.
5 stories at 10 feet each? Five
no, it was
stories
serviced probably between 60 and 70. I couldn't tell you the exact height. I know the other building's at 72. So it just depends where you're at.
So that whole building, which started pretty much at Beach, had a little setback because of the parking lot, but then it started and then it ran all the way back, and it was 60 feet tall, and it was all brick and old windows, and there were at least 3 metal fire escapes that were hanging off the top of that too. And that's what fronted Robertson and fronted, I'm sorry, Mr. Boyle, but your home, that's what it fronted when you moved there. That's what was there. And I'm not saying I look at that and I say, like, so why would PLK even, I mean, I know you purchased the properties that you're trying to develop now, you purchased as part of the Multicolor site, but why wouldn't you just walk away from that? I mean, we're happy to have brownfield cleaned up. I mean, clearly, when PLK came in and did the work at the Plain Card site, we were extremely happy because that was all brownfield. And then to take this Multicolor site and clean up, and we even have brownfield on the backside. Why wouldn't PLK, which is a money-making business, I'm sure you guys make money, But why wouldn't you just go to Westchester? Because there's cornfields in Westchester that you could develop on and you wouldn't have to do all this.
So two different things. One, this is from the day we bought this property was because our company was founded in Norwood. So that was why we bought this. When Peter started our company, he bought his first 12-unit property in the city, and he wanted to clean that site up and do something for the city where he started his business, which is exactly why we're moving our corporate headquarters here in February. So to that point, why would we do that? Well, we bought Multicolor next door because we knew that they had chemicals that were leaching onto our property and in Kenilworth Road, and we wanted to make sure we could control what was coming on or off of our property. So in buying that property to make sure that was remediated properly to protect our other investment, this came with it. But we had to agree to clean it all up. So we're stuck in the situation of we're cleaning up this site. We are not, we've always said, like, we didn't even approach them about this site. Like, they came to us. No different than the home that was sold to us came to us and said, would you buy this? That's why we bought it. So he works for one of our suppliers. That's why he came to us. So it wasn't that we said, hey, knocking on doors, well, can I buy your house? That wasn't it. It was purely about, did it make sense for us? And did it help create what we needed to do here and achieve the goals? So it was, this site was not about buying it for profit, or we would have a lot more units on here.
Mr. Lingenfelter? What's the cost to remediate this property?
It's over $1 million. I couldn't give you the exact number right now because we haven't started digging it out. I can tell you roughly what the soil, the estimated quantities of soil that need to be removed and what needs to be adjusted at the moment. And then you could look at a site we just bought 6 weeks ago and it just quadrupled. So once you're in there, you're stuck with what you bought.
Can you give me just a ballpark figure for the environmental remediation PLK has done at Factory 52 in this site?
Between $8 and $10 million to date. That's without the demolition of Multicolor and the cleanup there.
That's all removing pollution from the city?
Correct.
Thank you. Further questions, Mr. Lingenfelter?
I have to bring this up again. This is one of my first questions. Traffic study.
Yeah.
Ralph, you're going to be tired of me bringing this up. I have to assume Mr. Boyle's done his research. I thought I was told all of the traffic studies are in place and up to date. It's one of my reasons I made a comment that we don't have everything yet that's required.
The traffic studies, the latest ones are in our office. Now, to say that they haven't done a final traffic study to understand what's actually going to be going on with all of this, because the traffic study was based off of PLK, off of that parcel, the north parcel.
I understand what you're saying, and I've done a lot of traffic studies. You can't finish it, but if there was a report that was written even after phase one, that these things had to be done, it would seem to me that they have to be done.
Correct.
Okay.
And in our traffic memo, this specific parcel with these townhomes is in the traffic memo from last year too. It is all in the memos that have been, like, they give updates. So to your point, we wrote an original. It was written during COVID. We knew that. Yeah, it's all
we
there.
don't receive the traffic
I got you, yeah.
as a commission.
I want to make sure this parcel was included in that number as well.
Okay.
Because we knew that it was part of the overall land. So the townhomes are in the traffic
Okay.
that they
well,
have. Yes, sir.
It's been one of my,
I get
it's
it.
not the only heartache, but I mean, it's one of the biggest ones, like open space.
Mm-hmm.
My last comment was, this road was kind of the exit was kind of add-on.
Correct. Yeah.
The comment about it's, a thoroughfare next to residential, it seems like there could be more consideration by POK or the designers for POK to remedy that in some fashion. And I'm not an architect. I'm not going to sit here and tell you what I think it should be. I don't think a fence is even the right thing, but it is and it's only 48 units, so it's not going to be 500 cars a day, but it's going to be significant exiting out of here. But anyway, I've already voiced where my concerns are. It's those pads in the front. The only reason I brought them up, and I'm going to stop talking. I was down in Charleston, South Carolina last week visiting my daughter. And I couldn't believe it when I pulled, she lives where the roadway is exactly like these. Her car, her garage, all the cars are on angles. And not half, I mean, a good part of them, especially trucks with the hitches
The ball hitches on back, yes, sir.
are sticking out in the roadways. Now, I'm not the fire department, but it's been my concern about the width of the roadways and the width of their drive. And I understand that you've already got it drawn up, and it costs money to have anything modified. But, I think that you've heard clearly, I think that there's concerns. But anyway, I'll stop. I'm done, Noah.
Further discussion? Thank you, Mr. Lingenfelter. Entertain any motions?
I will make a motion. I would make a motion that the planning commission endorse the proposed final PUD plan and recommend it to the city of Norwood City Council for 4500 Beach Street, Robertson South.
Do I have a second? I will second. Mrs. Town, would you please call the roll?
Chairman Powers,
Yes?
Mayor Schneider,
Yes.
Mrs. Signature,
No.
Mr. Stewart.
No.
The motion does not pass. Moving to item E, new business. Review of a draft ordinance amending Part 3 Traffic Code, Chapter 305, Traffic Control relating to an ordinance adopting and authorizing a street naming and numbering policy to ensure public health, safety, and general welfare as an effective transportation navigation within the city. Mr. Skelly, could you give us a quick primer on the proposed ordinance?
Good afternoon, members. So what you have in front of you is a draft street naming and street numbering policy. And actually it was brought up almost last year when we were entertaining phase one for the PLK development. And we had, essentially it was a very laborious exercise. It involved the planning commission where we essentially went through the process, and it was almost like a group effort where over the extent of about an hour, we were looking at the street names, the numbering, and there was a lot of back and forth and a lot of discussion. So after that meeting, collectively, staff believed that we needed to have a better process. So at that point, I did some research, was provided with various examples of other municipalities in the area, and the intent was to create a very short, simple, very kind of initial sort of policy. But more importantly, aside from actually having policies and rules written down you would have to adhere to and a developer would look at, and staff would be certain, more importantly, it would be, the intent was to take it away from a more deliberative, group effort and have a single delegated staff person look at that, and whether it would be someone in the building department, myself, in the fire, whoever, that the safety service director would delegate that responsibility to. So the objectives were simplify the process for everyone's benefit, provide a lot more certainty, and provide for the timing of that.
Questions for Mr. Skelly? Mr. Mayor?
So, Mr. Skelly, would this so as we look at plans now, as they come to us, would we have already established address names and information on it prior to the development being approved?
The planning commission would not be involved in whatsoever. So the process would work is that a developer would either initiate the process, they would probably look at our existing written policy, go ahead and kind of prepare a mock-up and submit it to the safety service director. And then a designate would kind of review that information, either have further discussions if there's issues, potentially just make modifications, give it back to the developer, and that would be the extent of the city involvement. So it would not have to go through a planning commission meeting, would not necessarily need, let's say, public notification. It's strictly more of an administrative action based on policy.
Mr. Mayor?
Follow-up question.
Yes.
They like to say that at council meetings, so I figured I'd say follow-up. Mr. Skelly, at the last council meeting, there was a young lady who came up and she talked about house numbers and trying to find houses, and I'm sure it's a very interesting, and probably the police department, fire department give me a 20-minute lecture on how they should have addresses on there. Does this address, I know it says, on one section, it says numbers must be displayed on the side of the building and structure that faces the road. Does this have anything in here that gives our citizens guidance on having their homes clearly addressed so that, emergency services or the pizza guy, more likely the pizza guy for me, can find the house easily? Or is this not address that at all?
No, it is expressly, and again, I was at that meeting, I did hear the concern, I kind of agreed with it, and that is addressed on page 4 of 9, section 305.024, essentially F. And I'll give you an example. So I have a property on Spencer Avenue, and I believe probably a prior owner decided to put almost like stickers on the house. So anyone could go to a Home Depot or another place and just buy, small stickers, whether it's this size or this size, and slap it on to the house. So to me, and again, looking at other municipal ordinances, policies for this, there needs to be sort of an acceptable standard policy for that. Something of that sort already is in the fire code, and it's just a matter in terms of the height, the stroke width, and even the location. So in addition to having ideally numbers, so in my case, I own a triplex, and I have issues right now in terms of even 3 mailboxes. I do have the benefit of having 2 municipal addresses that I should provide, but it also states not having where you have one address and you have unit A, B, or C, or you have unit, a half, a quarter, a third, which is confusing. So the intent is to standardize, uniform things, and almost be very specific and provide direction as to where it will be, how big it will be, et cetera. And even in terms of lighting. So there's a provision here that would apply to a development like this where you would have, and we discussed earlier in part of the testimony, where if necessary, appropriate lighting, whether it's on a building such as a multifamily that you can see it, that the fire department is not getting lost or driving in circles to decide which is the appropriate unit. Obviously, a fire, that's going to be obvious where the issue is, but when they have the EMF going for someone has a heart attack or whatever, that should save time.
Additional questions for Mr. Skelly? Thank you, Mr. Skelly.
Sure.
Are we doing anything with this?
You could.
Make a motion to send it to council so that they can put it into committee, and
We can make a motion to endorse it, recommend it to Norwood City Council.
have you guys had enough time to look at it?
I'll be honest with you, I was studying the main, I didn't get a chance to study
So
it.
let's
like I-
table it to the next meeting.
If it's not critical,
Give
I'd
everybody
I'd
time.
appreciate that.
Okay,
Is that a motion to table this until the December meeting?
sounds good to me.
Thank you, Mike.
I'll second. Mrs. Town, would you please call the roll?
Chairman Powers,
Yes?
Mayor Schneider,
No, I mean, yes.
Mrs. Sickenthaler,
Yes.
Mr. Stewart,
Yes.
Motion passes. Item F, old business. Any old business? Seeing none, excuse absent members. I'll make a motion to excuse Mr. Hockney. Is there a second?
I'll second
Yep.
that. Sorry.
Mrs. Town, would you please call the roll?
Chairman Powers,
Yes.
Mayor Schneider,
Yes.
Mrs.
Yes.
Yes.
Item F, adjournment. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Mrs. Town, would you please call the roll?
Chairman Powers,
Yes?
Mayor Schneider,
Yes.
Mrs. Signature,
Yes.
Mr. Stewart.
Yes.
We are adjourned at 5:30. Thank you, everyone.